I'm quitting my job. You'll support me and my kids, said my sister. I said no and moved to another state. A month later, Mom wrote, "Come back or we'll disown you." So I stopped all financial support and watched them panic. Well, let's go. My name is Rachel and I'm 32 years old. I worked as a sales rep for this big trading company and made decent money, enough to get a mortgage on a small house that I absolutely loved. It wasn't huge or anything, but it was mine and in a really good neighborhood. I had my parents, of course, and an older sister named Karen, who was 35. Karen had just gotten divorced from her husband a few months back and had 2 kids. My nephews Jake and Tommy, ages 8 and 10. Even though Karen worked, she barely made enough to cover her rent and expenses, so I'd been helping her out with money pretty regularly. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? She was struggling. But honestly, this had been the pattern my whole life. My parents always favored Karen because she was the oldest. When we were kids and I was really good at math, they'd make me do Karen's homework for her instead of making her learn it herself. When Karen wanted to take piano lessons, but I wanted to take them too. They said we could only afford one and gave them to her. When I got straight A's and Karen got C's, my parents would tell me I needed to help Karen study more instead of congratulating me. When Karen turned 16, my parents bought her a car. When I turned 16, they said I could share it with her, but it was really hers. When we both applied to colleges, they paid for Karen's tuition in full, but told me I'd need to take out loans because Karen needed more help. The list went on and on. So, when my phone rang that Tuesday morning and I saw Karen's name, I figured she needed money again. But when I answered, she sounded different. Happy. Really happy. "Rachel, guess what? I quit my job," Karen said, practically singing the words. I almost dropped my coffee. "You what?" "Karen, what are you talking about?" "I quit. I walked right into my manager's office this morning and told him I was done. No more 2 weeks' notice. Nothing. I'm free." My stomach dropped. "Karen, how are you going to pay rent? How are you going to feed Jake and Tommy?" She laughed like I just told the funniest joke in the world. "Oh, don't worry about that. You're going to support me financially until I rest up, get my strength back, and find something better." I stared at my phone like it was broken. "I'm sorry." "What? I'm going to what now?" "Come on, Rachel. I've been working nonstop since the divorce. I'm exhausted. I deserve a break. You make good money. You can cover my expenses for a while, just until I figure things out. Karen, I'm not going to support you." "That's insane. You have 2 kids and responsibilities." Her voice got that sharp edge it always got when she didn't get her way. "Well, if you won't help me willingly, I'll just call Mom and Dad. They'll make you do the right thing." And then she hung up on me. I sat there holding my phone, feeling that familiar, sick feeling in my stomach. The same feeling I'd gotten as a kid when Karen would threaten to tell on me if I didn't do what she wanted. That's what she always did when she wanted something. Run to Mommy and Daddy to make me give in. About 30 minutes later, my phone rang again. "Mom, Rachel Marie Thompson. What is wrong with you?" Mom's voice was already at full volume before I even said hello. "Hi, Mom. What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me." Karen called me crying. "She said you refused to help her when she needs you most. How could you be so selfish?" "Mom, Karen quit her job without having another one lined up. She expects me to pay all her bills while she takes a vacation. That's not reasonable. She's not taking a vacation. She's been through a terrible divorce and she needs time to recover. You have a good job and a house. The least you can do is help your sister." "Help her?" "Yes. Support her completely while she chooses not to work." "No." "Well, that's too bad because we've already decided. Karen and the boys are moving in with you. You have that big bedroom upstairs. They can stay there." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "They're what?" "Mom, nobody asked me about this." "We're not asking, Rachel. We're telling you. Karen needs a place to stay and you have the room." "This is my house, Mom. My house that I pay the mortgage on. Family helps family. Rachel, Karen would do the same for you." "No, she wouldn't." Karen had never done anything for me that she didn't have to do. But I knew there was no point in arguing with Mom when she'd already made up her mind. Then Dad got on the phone. "Rachel, you need to clean out that bedroom. The boys will need space for their stuff." "Dad, I don't want anyone living in my house." "Too bad. Karen's your sister and those are your nephews. Stop being so damn selfish." After they hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot at work and tried not to cry. This was exactly how it had always been. Karen did whatever she wanted, and I was expected to deal with the consequences. She quit her job on a whim, and somehow it became my problem to solve. That's when I remembered something. 4 months ago, my boss had offered me a transfer to our company's office in the next state over. I turned it down because I just bought my house and didn't want to move. But what if that position was still open? I walked back into the office and knocked on my boss's door. "Hey, Tom, remember that offer you made me about transferring to the Denver office? Is that position still available?" "It is." "Why are you interested now?" Very interested. When could I start? Tom leaned back in his chair and smiled. Hell, Rachel, you could start next week if you wanted to. I've been holding that spot, hoping you'd change your mind. Then, yes, I want to transfer. All right, then. I'll make the calls. You can start Monday if that works for you. As soon as I left Tom's office, I called my friend Mike, who worked in real estate. Mike, I need a favor. Can you find tenants for my house? Good ones who will pay on time and take care of the place. Sure, but why? You just bought that house. Long story, but I need to move quickly. Like this week, quickly. I'll see what I can do. I spent the rest of that day making lists and plans. If my family thought they could just steamroll over me and make decisions about my life without even asking, they had another thing coming. I moved fast. Really fast. I knew my parents and Karen could show up at my house any day with suitcases and expect me to just roll over and let them take over my life. So I had exactly 1 week to get out. I called in sick for the rest of that week and spent every waking hour packing. I kept only what I absolutely needed. Clothes, important documents, my laptop, and a few personal items. Everything else went into storage or stayed with the house for the tenants. Mike came through for me big time. By Thursday, he'd found a married couple with 1 kid who were looking for a house to rent in my neighborhood. They seemed nice enough when I met them. The husband worked in it, the wife was a teacher, and their daughter was about 7. They could move in immediately and were willing to pay first and last month's rent up front. I signed the lease agreement with them on Friday morning. They'd transfer the rent money directly to my bank account every month. It felt surreal renting out the house I'd worked so hard to buy, but I knew it was the right move. By Friday afternoon, I was loading my car with the last of my stuff. I'd already shipped boxes ahead to Denver and found a decent apartment online that I could rent month to month. Saturday morning, I drove to Denver and started my new job on Monday. The office was smaller than the one back home, but the people seemed nice and the work was basically the same. Tom had given me a great recommendation, so my new boss was happy to have me. I spent Tuesday setting up my new apartment, just basics like groceries and getting the internet connected. It felt weird being in a completely different state, but also kind of freeing. For the first time in my adult life, my family couldn't just drop by whenever they wanted to dump their problems on me. Wednesday afternoon, Mike called me. Rachel, I've got good news and potentially dramatic news. Hit me with the good news first. Your tenants are settled in. Great. They love the house and already transferred this month's rent. Nice people. And the dramatic news? Well, yesterday afternoon, a woman showed up at your house with 2 kids and what looked like half a U-Haul truck full of stuff. Started banging on the door, demanding to be let in. My stomach dropped, even though I'd been expecting this. Let me guess, my sister Karen. I'm assuming so. The tenants called me because they didn't know what to do. This woman was screaming that it was her sister's house and she had every right to live there. The tenants explained they were renting from you and you'd moved, but she wouldn't listen. What happened? Eventually, an older couple showed up too. I'm guessing your parents. They all had a big argument on your front lawn. The neighbors were starting to come out and watch. Finally, they left, but they took down my number from the rental sign. I laughed. I'd been dreading this confrontation, but now that it was happening, it felt almost funny. They'd driven all the way to my house expecting to just move in and instead found strangers living there. Did they call you? Oh, yeah. The older woman, your mom, called me about an hour later, demanding to know where you went. I told her I couldn't give out that information, but she kept yelling that I had to tell her because you were her daughter and she had a right to know. That night, the call started. First, Mom tried calling me. I saw her name on my phone and just let it go to voicemail. Then Dad called. Then Karen called. I ignored all of them. Then the texts started coming in. Mom, Rachel, call me right now. We went to your house and strangers are living there. Where are you? Dad, this is ridiculous. Rachel, call us back immediately. Karen, I can't believe you would do this to me. I have nowhere to live and you just disappeared. I turned my phone on silent and went to bed. The next morning, I had 12 missed calls and 23 text messages. I scrolled through them while drinking my coffee. Karen, the tenant said you moved somewhere but wouldn't say where. This is so messed up. Mom, you better explain yourself right now, young lady. Dad, you can't just run away from your responsibilities. Karen, Jake and Tommy are asking where Aunt Rachel went. What am I supposed to tell them? I finally decided to respond, but only to Mom. I sent one simple text. I moved. Stop looking for me. A few hours passed, and I thought maybe that would be the end of it. But that evening, Mom texted back, if you don't come home right now and let Karen live with you, we're disowning you. You're not our daughter anymore. I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me felt hurt, even though I'd been expecting something like this, but mostly I felt relieved. If they wanted to disown me for not letting them control my life, then fine. I texted back. Go ahead. The next few days were quiet. No calls, no texts. I started to think maybe they'd actually given up. But then Karen posted something on Facebook that made me realize this was far from over. Her post said, well, I guess I know where I stand with some people. I quit my job because I was burned out and needed time to recover from my divorce, and my own sister refused to help me. Now I have no income and nowhere to live with my 2 young children. Some family support system, right? I guess money is more important than family to some people. The comments started rolling in almost immediately. Karen's friends were all over it. OMG, Karen, that's horrible. Your sister sounds selfish AF. Family should always come first. So sorry you're going through this. Some people forget where they came from. Even Mom liked this post. It was unpleasant. But then some of our relatives started commenting too, and they weren't all on Karen's side. Our cousin Lisa wrote, wait, didn't you quit your job without having another one lined up? And don't you get alimony for the boys? Uncle Mark commented, Karen, you chose to quit your job. That's not Rachel's responsibility to fix. Aunt Sarah added, I love you both, but Rachel shouldn't have to support you indefinitely just because you decided to take a break from working. The comments got pretty heated. Karen's friends kept defending her, but more and more relatives were pointing out that she'd put herself in this situation. She was getting child support from her ex-husband for Jake and Tommy. So it wasn't like the kids would starve. That evening, I was sitting in my new apartment thinking about everything that had happened. That's when I remembered something important. About 6 months ago, my parents had called me with money problems. Dad's company had laid off a bunch of people and cut his hours to part-time. Mom worked at a department store but didn't make much. They were struggling to pay their mortgage and asked if I could help them out temporarily. Being the good daughter, I'd set up an automatic transfer to send them $800 every month to help cover their mortgage payment. I'd been doing it for months without really thinking about it. But now that Mom had literally told me they were disowning me and Karen had posted this accusation, I figured I didn't owe strangers anything. I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer. Then I took a screenshot of the cancellation confirmation and sent it to both my parents with a simple message. Since you disowned me, I won't be paying strangers' mortgage anymore. My phone rang about 3 minutes later. Mom. This time I answered. Rachel, what did you just do? Mom was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. You can't do this to us. We need that money. Without it, we can't make our mortgage payment. That sounds like a you problem, Mom. I heard her start crying. Rachel, please. Karen and the boys are living with us now because she has nowhere else to go. We can't afford to feed them and pay the mortgage without your help. Then maybe Karen should get a job. She's still recovering from her divorce. She needs time. She needs income. She has 2 kids to feed. Your father only works part-time now. It's not enough. Then maybe Dad should find a full-time job or a second job like normal people do when they have money problems. Mom was crying harder now. How can you be so cruel? This is all your fault. If you just let Karen stay with you like we planned, none of this would have happened. My fault. Karen quit her job without having another one lined up. That's nobody's fault but hers. And you guys decided to support her instead of telling her to be responsible. That's your choice. She's family. So am I. But that didn't stop you from disowning me when I wouldn't do what you wanted. We didn't mean it. Too late, Mom, you made your choice. I hung up and turned off my phone. I was shaking a little bit, but I also felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. For the first time in my adult life, I'd stood up to my family and said no. The next 2 weeks were blissfully quiet. I threw myself into work and started exploring Denver. It was actually a pretty cool city. I was making good money, plus getting rental income from my house back home. I was doing better financially than I ever had. Then Tom, my old boss, called me. Rachel, I need to tell you about something weird that happened today. Your mother came to my office and demanded to see me. She said, I need you to make Rachel send money to her family. Oh my God. What did she say exactly? She said, Rachel is being irresponsible and selfish. And as her boss, you need to either convince her to send us money or just take it directly out of her paycheck and send it to me. I was mortified. Tom, I am so sorry. I had no idea she would do something like that. Hey, don't worry about it. I told her that what you do with your money is none of my business and none of the company's business. I also told her that what she was suggesting sounded like theft. How did she react to that? She started crying and saying her family was going to lose their house. I felt bad for her, but there's nothing I can do. I just wanted to give you a heads up in case she tries anything else. After Tom hung up, I sat there feeling sick. Mom had actually gone to my old workplace and tried to get my boss to steal money from my paycheck. That was a new low, even for her. I spent the rest of that evening thinking about what to do. They were clearly not going to leave me alone. Karen was living with my parents along with her 2 kids. None of them were working full-time, and they all expected me to fund their lifestyle. That's when I decided to write them an email. I spent 2 hours writing it, making sure every word was clear. Mom, Dad, and Karen. Today, my former boss called to tell me that Mom came to his office demanding he steal money from my paycheck to send to you. This is harassment, and it needs to stop immediately. I am documenting every call, every text message, and every attempt to contact my employers or interfere with my work. If any of you continue to harass me, contact my workplace, or demand money from me, I will file for a restraining order. I have evidence of harassment, including the call log from my phone, the text messages demanding money, and testimony from my former boss about Mom's visit to his office. You told me I was disowned and no longer your daughter. I accepted that. Now leave me alone. Any further contact will be considered harassment and will be reported to the police. I sent the email to all 3 of them and then blocked their phone numbers. 3 days passed without any contact. Then a week. Then 2 weeks. I started to think maybe the threat of legal action had finally gotten through to them. Maybe they'd realized I was serious about being left alone. My cousin Lisa called me one evening to check in. Hey Rachel, how are you doing in Denver? I'm doing really well, actually. How are things back home? Well, your family is definitely struggling. Your dad had to get a second part-time job at a grocery store, and Karen went back to work. Your mom keeps telling everyone that you abandoned the family, but honestly, most people think Karen brought this on herself. What do you think? Lisa was quiet for a moment. I think you did what you had to do. Your family was taking advantage of you, and they needed to learn they couldn't just make decisions about your life without asking you. After we hung up, I felt vindicated. Karen was working again. Dad was working more. They were all taking responsibility for their own lives instead of expecting me to fix everything for them. 3 months had passed since I sent that email threatening legal action. 3 months of complete silence from my family. 3 months of the most peaceful life I'd ever had. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop in Denver on a Saturday morning, looking through apartment listings online. The rental income from my house back home was coming in like clockwork every month. My tenants were great. They took care of the place and never bothered me with stupid complaints. Combined with my salary from the new job, I was making more money than I ever had in my life. I'd been thinking about buying an apartment here in Denver. With the rental income helping to cover a mortgage payment, I could actually afford something really nice. Something that would be completely mine, where nobody could show up and demand to live with me. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Hope you're doing well. Thought you should know what's going on back here. I called her back. Hey, what's the update? Well, your dad is working 2 jobs now. His part-time office job during the day and stocking shelves at the grocery store 3 nights a week. He looks tired, but they're managing to pay their bills. And Karen is not happy. She's working full-time at that call center and absolutely hates it. She's living with your parents still, which your mom says is really cramped. Karen and the boys are all squeezed into your old bedroom, and apparently there's constant fighting over space and privacy. Sounds like a nightmare. Your mom is working overtime at the department store, too. She looks older, Rachel. Like this whole situation has really aged her. I felt a tiny pang of guilt, but pushed it away. They created this situation. Lisa, all of this could have been avoided if they just treated me like an adult instead of assuming they could make decisions about my life. I know. And honestly, most of the family agrees with you. Even Grandma said the other day that your parents spoiled Karen too much, and this was bound to happen eventually. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I'd been trapped in this cycle where my family's problems automatically became my problems. Karen made bad decisions, and I was expected to fix them. My parents had money troubles, and I was expected to solve them. Now Karen was working full-time and taking care of her own responsibilities. My parents were working harder to pay their own bills, and I was living my own life without constantly worrying about what crisis I'd have to handle next. I looked back at the apartment listings on my laptop. There was this really nice 2-bedroom condo for sale about 10 minutes from my office. It had a balcony overlooking the mountains and an updated kitchen. The monthly mortgage payment would be manageable with my salary and rental income combined. I called the realtor and scheduled a viewing for Monday. That afternoon, I got an email notification that this month's rent had been deposited into my account. I logged into my banking app and looked at my balance. Between my salary and the rental income, I was saving more money than I'd ever been able to save before. When I was living in my hometown, I'd been sending Karen money every month, plus the $800 to my parents for their mortgage. That was over $1,000 a month that I was giving away instead of saving for my own future. No wonder I'd always felt financially stressed. Now I could actually think about things like retirement savings and building real wealth. I'd opened an investment account and started putting money away every month. For the first time in my adult life, I was planning for my own future instead of just reacting to other people's emergencies. I spent Sunday evening researching the neighborhood where that condo was located. Good schools, low crime rate, lots of restaurants and shops within walking distance. It would be perfect. Monday morning, I met the realtor at the condo. It was even better in person. Hardwood floors, big windows, and that view of the mountains was incredible. I could picture myself living there. We spent the next hour going over paperwork and discussing financing. With my income and the rental property, I qualified for a great mortgage rate. I could put down 20% and still have plenty left in savings for emergencies. That evening, I submitted an offer on the condo. The seller accepted it the next day. A week later, Lisa called with more updates from home. Karen is telling everyone who'll listen that you ruined her life, Lisa said, laughing. How did I ruin her life? She's working and supporting her kids like a normal adult. That's exactly what I said to her. But she's convinced that if you just let her live with you for a few months, she could have found some amazing job and everything would be perfect now. Or she would have spent months sitting on my couch watching Netflix while I paid all her bills. Probably. But she can't admit that to herself. It's easier to blame you than to admit she made bad choices. And my parents? Still working their butts off to pay the bills. Your mom mentioned you sometimes, but not as much as she used to. I think they're starting to accept that you're not coming back. Good, because I'm not. 2 weeks later, I closed on the condo. I stood in my new living room, looking out at the mountains, and felt something I'd never really felt before. Complete independence. My phone was quiet. No calls demanding money. No texts asking me to solve someone else's problems. No guilt trips about family obligations. I'd learned something important over the past few months. Setting boundaries wasn't cruel or selfish. It was necessary. My family had been taking advantage of my willingness to help, and they'd probably have kept doing it forever if I hadn't finally said no. Now Karen was working and paying her own way. My parents were handling their own financial problems, and I was building a life that was actually mine.